99 FM, your inspiration station here with Closer. 10:30 is the time in studio, top of the morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us and making us your number one. It is Mo in the morning, holding it down for my main man Script. Time for Game Changers. Today's Game Changers is R-E. Ooh, English came to Africa, but it's not my fault. Go away. It's Ericke Tjiueza. See, I'm getting a nod. I had to practice that one a bit. And Kevin Perestrelo. They will be talking to us about KP Studios. They are the two geniuses behind this great initiative. Good morning, Goeiemorgen. How are you gentlemen doing today? Thank you very much for joining us and for coming through. Really do appreciate it. I'm actually a big fan of you, Kevin. I've seen some of the work that you've put out. I was like, oh. And so when I saw you walking, I'm like, oh my word. I became a groupie a bit. Just a bit. Just a small. But thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Now, KP Studios is a Namibian creative collective made up of Ericke Tjiueza and Kevin Perestrelo. The duo describe themselves as aesthetic storytellers who create with the intent of incorporating representation, especially for minority African identities and cultures. Their areas of expertise include, but not limited to, I like that sentence, photography, videography, and an overall creative concept development. That's a bit of a mouthful, but again, thank you so much for coming through. Getting straight into it, Kevin, let me start with you. Yeah. Give us a brief introduction of the two of you, as creative directors, and of course, KP Studios.
Of myself, Kevin is man, how do I describe this?
It's never easy, eh? Like, tell us about yourself.
It's not easy. I could easily tell you I'm a photographer, but on a given day, I could be a videographer, I could be filmmaking, that sort of thing. But I think let's keep it at creative director for now.
Okay.
Until, if we meet on another day, it might be something different. Yeah. But today
you're creative director. Yeah. And KP Studios, what was the idea behind that? Why did the two of you decide to get together and say, you know what, this seems like a great idea?
So, for the most part, we were doing work individually that we felt was very important, one, and also valuable in terms of what it would do for the creative community, for example. Okay, and so we thought the best thing to go about it is to create a collective, which is not just the two of us, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, and just really dive into important work, and like you mentioned earlier, creating representation and all of those things. I think I would like Ericke to get in on the
storytelling. Yeah. I think above anything else, we're storytellers first. So our roles, it's whatever fits the story. So if you need a stylist, we can do styling. If the story requires you to be a photographer, we're the photographers. If it's creative direction, consulting, that sort of thing, it's more so storytelling than it is a role in the art department or anything like that. Yeah.
I mean, in addition to what Kevin mentioned, who are you, Ericke?
I'm a storyteller.
You're a storyteller. Yeah.
I know for a lot of people, it's sort of like, where did you pop out from? I think that storytelling is something that I've been passionate about for most of my life. So when somebody asks me, who are you, it's a very difficult question to answer because if you just go based off of my work, I have so many roles, there are so many things that I do, and that's why we're always pushing for this idea that millennials and even older generation, you can be multifaceted and you can embrace different elements or perspectives or views of yourself, and you're not constrained to being just one thing.
Ericke, I need to ask you this, and it's been mentioned a couple of times. One of the focus is looking at African minorities and their identities and culture. What exactly does that mean? I understand the English of it, but what story are you trying to tell within that particular space?
So if you think about it, as a Namibian, we are a minority, even in Africa with our population, and that has created a lot of erasure. We sort of have to fight for a seat at the table in every aspect. We just have Christine, them who who've been doing brilliant work and they're being celebrated globally, but it's not often that you find Namibians that actually take up space on an international scale and are able to share their stories with the world. So essentially it's finding all those stories and all those people within society that are erased because they are a minority or because they have a certain identity, and giving them a platform to share their stories.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Now, Kevin, what is the objective? So you're telling these great stories about Namibians and minority groups, but what is the end goal? What kind of conversations are you guys trying to bring to the fore within the ambit of the work that you guys are trying to put out?
So because we are in Namibia, right?
Yeah. Land of the brave.
Land of the brave. Population is very small.
Right.
So I think the greatest difficulty is creating a visual aesthetic that is true to Namibia, for example.
Right.
And just outside of a visual aesthetic, it can be whether we're looking at cinema, storytelling, that sort of thing. So it's really about sitting down at a grassroots level. That's a word that Ericke always uses, by the way. Just thought I would throw it in. Yeah. And tell the stories that are able to meet people where they are, and not so much about how best can I put this?
Meeting like global standards. I think like one of the most important things that we have incorporated into the studio is sort of telling a story that redefines what luxury means for Africans, for Namibians. Luxury is not having the house on the hill. Luxury is having a peace of mind. Luxury is having your voice heard. Luxury is being able to have a job that you care about and being able to have community, you know. Those are the types of stories that we want to center in the work. So even if it's doing corporate work, we want to find meaningful corporate work to do, you know. It's not just about getting a check at the end of the day. It's actually about telling stories that kids that are 5 years old now can come back to and reference and essentially take further, you know. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned corporate there, Ericke. You guys recently worked on the Nedbank Young Professionals campaign, which was, I got glimpses of it, which was quite epic, to say the least.
Thank you.
What was that experience like? And again, for the both of you.
Oh, I'm still coming out of it.
Bit surreal there, yeah?
It's a bit surreal.
Yeah.
I think it's and that's exactly what it is when you're creating stories that are this big and that are this intentional. It'll take you a while to sort of grasp what it is you're creating. That's why I think as an artist it's also important to sort of isolate whenever you can. I've been trying to, but well, you know.
I mean, and for me, it's such a marvel, because if you think about it, Namibia, like the social issues that we have right now is sort of like gender-based violence is one of the biggest things, you know.
Right.
The way that black women in particular view themselves is something that we not necessarily want to have a voice in as men, but something that we want to be, it's a conversation that we want to be table.
Right.
So just using profound acts like Gina and Lioness, and
my celebrity crush, FYI. Lioness. If you guys know she's getting married, but just let her know, like, hey, I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's like, think about it, like if you are a girl that is in grade 4, you're 10 years old, and you see an ad where you have two successful black young women that are not necessarily in a corporate space, but you're seeing them thrive, what opportunities or what limitations does that set you free of in yourself? So it's like, it's creating work that actually speaks to people in that way, you know. So yeah, that's the Nedbank campaign. Another thing that I loved, like Kevin said, grassroots level, the creatives that we worked with on that are people that have never worked on a campaign of that stature, that level, you know. These are people that work on a call-by-call basis. They aren't established in the industry, and I think that's also why the perspective of the ad looks the way and feels the way that it does, because everybody had something to lose, and everybody had a message to carry, from makeup to styling to a production, like literally everybody. It was incredible.
No, that is absolutely profound. Before I let you guys go, let's talk about KP Studios quickly. What does the future look like? You know, where you guys headed to? Sky's, you know, there's a saying, sky's the limit, but there's no limitations. But, you know, Kevin, where are you guys headed to?
The goal with KP Studios is again, I do need to mention this for it to exist outside of Ericke and myself, but also for brands, particularly corporate brands, for example, to be able to sort of meet or marry their product with story,
right?
Because we're existing in a time where people don't necessarily care about what it is that you're producing.
They can get it anywhere. 5 people are selling the same thing.
Exactly.
Right.
You
But
know?
the story that is attached to it, or the story of the product, is what meets people where they are and actually say that, like, hey, you know, even if the product is not that great, the story is immaculate.
Right.
So with KP Studios, the goal is to bring stories to people and bring people to
KP
stories.
Studios, I get it now. I just Ericke, before I let you guys go, also in terms of creative, individual creatives, what does the future look like for you? You obviously can't speak for Kevin, but for you, where are you headed to?
I think the goal is to just remain in touch with the lived experiences of Namibians, and especially the people that are subjugated to a lot of oppression, systemic violence. So it's to remain in touch with people, but it's also not to be constrained. It's to remain dynamic. I can't tell you what we're going to be creating in 5 years, or what my role or Kevin's role will be in the next 5 years, But what we really want to do is to remain in touch with where we come from and where we're going, and to tell honest stories that can relate to people.
Wow, very, very beautiful. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through. Really, really appreciate this.
Thank you for
What
having
we'll be
us.
doing is we'll be keeping an eye on KP Studios, keeping an eye on the work that you guys are putting out.
Right.
And this will not be the last time that we have you in studio. In actual fact, I don't think Script will like this very much, but we're going to get you on the Sibo and Mo in the morning. That one. Yes.
Yeah, that one I've heard.
Yeah.
There's a lot
And then
of
we
energy
definitely
there.
get you. We will be paying attention. Our game changers for today is Ericke Tjiueza and Kevin Perestrelo from KP Studios, just talking about how they are going to be changing the world, changing the narrative, the conversation. But again, something that did stand out for me here was trying to incorporate representation, especially for minority African identities and culture. I'm going to copy that one and just get it somewhere. Thank you very much, guys. Have a
you for
fantastic
having
day.
us.
All right.
Game Changers right here on your number one inspiration station. It is Mo on In the Morning.